Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to add a background to the template. Okay, so this is part one really of just setting up a basic title screen. Now the first task we need to do is make sure we've got space to store it within our program. So if you look at your template solution explorer and look for the graphics GFX file, open that up. You'll see here that I've got some commented out code. We need space to hold the actual texture for the background, but also the tile map, which is the background. So I'm going to create both of those here. So I'm going to say public static tile map. That's the type of thing it is, and I'm going to put TM title background. I put TM in front of it so that all my tile maps have the same names, and it makes it easier to find things. In terms of texture, I'm going to say public static texture 2D, and I'm going to put TX Mars image. Okay, that's what I'm going to use for mine. Okay, so that creates the storage for it. Now what we next need to do is add the graphic. Now I've got a graphic. You need to have something that's at least 800 by 600 pixels in size for this to work. Okay, so assuming you've got that, so pause the video if you haven't. In Solution Explorer, I'm going to add the graphic to my graphics folder. So I'm going to right click over graphics and I'm going to say add existing item, because it needs to exist first. Okay, so I'm going to find that and I'm going to use this picture I've got here of Mars. So I'm going to add that to my project, and you can see that it's appeared here. Okay. The next thing we need to do is tell the loading system to load that graphic for us. Now, we're starting to get quite a few things in here, and the easy way to find things is to look at the class view tab. Now, if that isn't open or visible, if you go up to view, you should see class view up here. Okay, so if we look at class view, let me just close it all up. This is how it should appear the first time you open your project. It's code that we're looking for, and we're going to look for the start preloader subroutine. So if we just open that code arrow up and then engine template, you should see we've got game 1 graphics, my sprites and program. Now if we just select, don't double click, just select game 1, it'll display all the subroutines in alphabetical order. Okay, and all the variables at the end in alphabetical order. So we're looking for start preloader, and you can see that that's there. If we double click on that, it'll take me straight to that code. Class view is really handy for that. Right, I want to add another texture, so I'm going to copy that line, paste it there. Now back to Solution Explorer, will tell me what my file name is. Mars use, mine is. So it's in the graphics folder, Mars use, and this is now asset number 3. Remember, we start with the first one is 0 to 1, 2, 3. Everything starts at 0, and you'll get used to that. Mars use, no extension. The other thing I want to do is when the preloader's finished, which is the very next subroutine down, preload logic, we need to copy the texture into the space that we've created for it. So that is in preload logic, underneath the sample texture, we're going to say GFX dot. Now you should see I've got TX Mars image equals texture 2D in brackets, load manager dot get loaded asset, and it was number 3. Keep these comments at the end so you know what number they were. So that's number 3, needs transferring. And I'm going to put get asset 3 as a comment at the end. Okay, so that should have loaded my graphic. The next thing I need to do is I need to create the tile map, the background effect. Now go back to class view, and we should have something called create tile maps. Okay, there it is. If you look alphabetically, make sure game 1's selected, create tile maps, double click it, you'll see it's empty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a subroutine that will produce that background graphic for us. So we're going to call it create title background. So bracket says it's a subroutine, then semicolon. Now we've got a red squiggle because it doesn't exist yet. So what we're going to do, we're not going to panic, we're going to right click over it and we're going to say generate, and it will create the subroutine for us. Very nice of it. And it puts this line in on purpose so that if we try and run this code, it'll cause an error that we can then check. Okay, so we can delete that line, that one that I've just highlighted, just get rid, bin it. Okay, there's a couple of steps to creating a tilemap. First thing we've got to do is set its size. So we say graphics.tm, and this is why we created this space first, equals new tilemap. We need to give it a name so that when we want to know what tilemaps are displayed we can see, and I'm going to call this Mars background. Okay, so I'll put that in double quotes, and then I need to set an area for it. So the area is going to be the same size as the screen, so I'm actually going to say screen size. Okay, the next thing I need to do is now define the graphic that I want to display on that background. So I do this using the tilemap manager. So I put tilemap M, and then I say tile portion. Okay, and this allows me to take just part of a texture to make as the background. So the first thing it wants inside this subroutine, the parameters, is it wants to know what tilemap I'm dealing with. So graphics dot tm title background. Now I can carry on this line, but if I make the screen scroll like that, it's naff, and it doesn't make it easy to follow our code. Okay, we don't want to be going like horizontal scrolling when we're programming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on the next line. So I've got my comma and I've moved to the next line. Okay, now the next thing it wanted was a portion. So what part of my texture? Now I only want 800 wide by 600 down. Okay, so I'm going to say new rectangle, 0,0, they don't matter those, well, we want it from the top left hand corner, 800, 600. So this is exactly the same as the way of specifying the graphic for a sprite. Again, I'm going to go down onto the next line. The next thing I need to say is where do I want the graphic to appear on the tile sheet. Now I want it at the very top left hand corner. So that's a vector 2 and I put 0, 0. So the very top left hand corner of the tile sheet, and I need to say what texture I'm using. So it's the graphics dot Mars image for me. Okay, now I want this tilemap to be a background, so I need to say that now. So graphics dot tilemap dot type, the type specifies where it's displayed, and I should get, when I press space after equals, it should go straight to tilemap type. Okay, and then you'll see that there are 4 different types. Back, which is drawn before any sprites. Final, which is drawn after all sprites and all text, so you can use that for weird things. Front, which is drawn after all sprites but before text. And middle, which is drawn after the first 2 layers of sprites but before the last 2 layers of sprites. Okay, but we want a background one, so I was going to do that. Okay, so that creates the background. It doesn't show it, it just creates it, it defines it. So the next thing we need to do is in our title screen, we need to actually show the background. So if we, in class view, so looking on our class view, we look for the title screen setup, which is start title, there it is. If I double click on that, okay, it'll take me to the subroutine that creates. It's only doing the sample sprite at the minute. Okay, so if we just quickly run this, so F5, just to make sure it's working, we should just see that we get that horrible purple background, if it's worked, and the naff title screen graphic. Okay, so that's running. So press escape. So what we want to do is we want to add that background. So we tell the tilemap manager, so this is just in start title, tilemap manager, to add our background tilemap. So TM title background. Okay, that's all we need to do. We've created it. Now this is what shows it. So let's press F5 to run it and make sure it works. And you'll see how beautiful my Mars image is. There you go. Looks a bit weird in the purple sky, so we'll change the background colour. So just press escape. And just a couple of lines up, we've got this engine screen colour. So I'm going to delete up to the bit where it says colour, and then I'm going to press dot, and I'll get the picker list comes up. I want black, so I'm just going to go black. Now the reason I can see the background is because this was a transparent image, so the parts where there isn't the actual planet is just transparent, so I can show my background colour behind that, or I could show another tile map that had stars on it or something. Okay, so that's the end of part 1.